So some big new 40k reveals promised by Games Workshop today, plus there's a rather awesome new Black Templar's Emperor's Champion model, who's delivering the Emperor's justice to this war boss. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking about Games Workshop's announcement that there's going to be some big previews for Warhammer 40k coming as part of their Warhammer Day celebrations. Always good to have some details as to when they're going to be showing off some fun new models again, and in the meantime they've also given us this rather spectacular new sculpt for a Black Templar's Emperor's Champion, who's busy burying his black sword in the throat of this orc. So the preview itself has been announced on Warhammer Community. It's going to be coming on Saturday the 8th of October, and it sounds like it's going to be one of Games Workshop's previews online, where they sit down and talk us through a whole bunch of new miniatures that will likely be dropping sometime in the next few months. This one does seem like it's going to be fairly high yield for Warhammer 40k things. Apparently 40k itself has now been around for 35 years in total, so it sounds like the spotlight is going to be firmly on the grim darkness of the far future, as opposed to going for other gaming systems. At this point we know that really quite a lot of things are going to be coming soon for 40k, most of which haven't been shown off or leaked yet, so we'll talk about some of their options in just a second. Otherwise though, the other fun news for the day is that there's this new Emperor's Champion versus Orc miniature. I say it's versus, but to be honest it looks like the Emperor's Champion definitely has the upper hand in this fight. Even with the orky can-do and try-again attitude, I think this warboss is well and truly beaten. The miniature is called Bayard's Revenge, and it's the Games Workshop Warhammer Day miniature, a limited edition sculpt that apparently you'll be able to pre-order from the Games Workshop web store from the 8th of October if you want to, and it'll also be available to actually buy in store for around about a week, I think starting on the 15th they said. I don't suspect that it's any sort of permanent addition to the Black Templars range or anything like that, just a fun one-off centerpiece, and it'll probably just be on sale for a very limited time indeed. In terms of what they're actually going to be showing off at these previews, they didn't really give us too much information. The only clue that we've got are that there are loads of awesome new 40k miniatures, maybe not something that they say particularly differently one preview to the next, but it certainly does seem reasonable seeing as we know two codexes are going to be getting very big miniature waves in the not too distant future. Before we get into that though, I thought it would be worth just taking a closer look at Bayard's Revenge. The miniature's a Primaris Emperor's Champion in a bit more of a dynamic pose. This guy was recently redone about a year ago now, so it's basically a different pose for the same model, this guy triumphantly standing atop a slain warboss, putting the beast to rest. I feel like that's really quite a good sense of motion with this guy, pennant streaming out behind him, and that chain swinging around, and the Black Templar himself gritting his teeth in anger as he drives the black sword through the beast's throat. It's based on this old bit of Warhammer 40k artwork, not entirely sure from exactly which edition this one came from, though I must admit this one feels like a bit more of a loose artistic interpretation, rather than say the very much like-for-like recreation that we got with that Zoo 4 miniature from the Warhammer Plus subscription. I think that the miniature really works well. I think it's not really designed quite so much to be a gaming piece, this one. I guess it would be mounted on a slightly bigger base than the actual Emperor's Champion miniature comes on. Plus, I can't help but think it would be a little bit awkward to have this guy permanently carting around the corpse of a war boss, even if he happens to be fighting off against some Tau or Tyranids or something. Probably more aimed to be as a display piece to put on the shelf, rather than actually be used in-game. That being said though, I don't think many people will be really that disappointed against playing this on the other side of the tabletop. It is really quite a cool sculpt, and while the base might be a bit bigger, provided you were careful just not to gain any real advantages from having that, then I don't see why you wouldn't get to play it on the board. I do kind of find it interesting how Games Workshop chooses to dispense these specialist miniatures like this. I saw a couple of comments saying that this one could maybe have been the Warhammer Plus subscription miniature, and perhaps the World Eater's Terminator might have been a bit better served as the Warhammer Day 30 years of 40k type thing. I guess they're both based on classic artwork, but this one feels maybe a little bit on par with that awesome Vindicare sculpt that we had last year for Warhammer Plus type things, and the Terminator maybe feels like a bit more of a collector's piece retro sculpt miniature that might have gone down quite well for this for nostalgia points. In any case though, I think it is a pretty awesome miniature. Maybe the other interesting detail about it is that it is remaining a Primaris Black Templar Space Marine as opposed to the Firstborn one from the actual artwork. I guess it makes sense they're probably not going to redo Firstborn sculpts for the Emperor's Champion now he only has Primaris rules in 40k, and I do think that the miniature looks really quite good to be honest. Can't really go too far wrong with practical black power armour and an awesome great big relic blade engraved with text. Otherwise though, besides that cool miniature, it does kind of beg the question as to what else they're going to be showing off at the Warhammer Day previews, and this time I think they certainly have a fair amount of possibilities. We've just had Leagues of Votan. Technically their full release isn't out yet, but apparently we know everything that's going to be coming for their range, and presumably they're going to be dropping sometime in mid to late October. Otherwise, from Games Workshop's own timeline, we know that Garden World Eaters are next on the agenda. They're going to be coming out sometime over winter, but that could mean any time between December to March, potentially rather a long delay. My guess out of these is that Guard are probably going to be next rather than World Eaters. It seems a bit unlikely to me that Games Workshop would release the Leagues of Votan and then the World Eaters back to back, essentially two new miniature ranges for 40k straight away. And it kind of makes sense that they'd have the Guard in the middle, an updated codex but adding a whole ton of miniatures. They've already shown off a fair few new miniatures for Guard, the new Lady Creed miniature, the new Sentinel, and one of the new Kazakin here. But on top of that, we know an awful lot more is going to be coming for the Guard, new heavy weapon teams, a new Rogue or Dawn battle tank, a new sculpt of Rough Riders at some point. We've still not seen the rest of the Kazakin, some sort of Cadian infantry, a new command squad, and a commissar. I think that's the summary of the rumours so far, though please let me know if I've missed anything. My guess would be that we might see, say, 2 or 3 of those new kits shown off at this preview. It would be really nice if they actually gave us a bit more indication as to when the Guard Codex is coming. If I'd had to guess myself, I would have perhaps guessed January, but I'm sure Guard players wouldn't be at all disappointed if it dropped in December and we had the new Codex in time for Christmas. Otherwise, if they really are going heavy on 40k previews, it'd seem reasonable that World Eaters might have another unit shown off. I'd guess just for the sake of variety they wouldn't want to just purely keep it Guard and nothing else, and we pretty much know that a whole bunch of new miniatures are going to be coming for the World Eaters. Just like the Death Guard and the Thousand Sons, they'll be getting their own Terminators, their own unique brand of corn-themed cultists, some character sculpts, and perhaps a demon engine, hopefully. My guess for the 40k preview is we'll get something like 3 or so new Guard kits shown off, and maybe 1 or 2 of the World Eaters too. Otherwise, a new Space Marine Codex is going to be in the works. There's that Melter Redemptor Dreadnought, but I guess that will be a long way off, so they wouldn't want to show that off now. And then there's always the possibility of them throwing us a few curveballs with Kill Team. Most of those models tend to be really quite relevant for 40k as well. Again, we could see the rest of that Kazakin kit that's basically already confirmed to be a Kill Team release by the base, but there's plenty of options for other fun factions to be explored in Kill Team form. Maybe things like Fallen Chaos Space Marines perhaps an updated Inquisitorial Henchman warband, or some other dark corner of the 40k background that they haven't really shed light on in miniature form yet. In any case, let me know what you think will be coming down in the comments below. What do you think that Games Workshop should come out with, and what would you like to see? And what do you make of this nice new Black Templar killing an orc? If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly be covering the news and previews when we get them here on the channel. I do try and keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases as they drop. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well. You can find that links down in the video description, and feel free to check it out if you're interested. It is what allows me to keep on making videos like this quite so regularly, plus channel patrons do get a few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.